the riskier ones because you get into the double aisle aircraft, and when you start development of an aircraft, 6, 7, 8 years before it's actually going to be fielded, and it looks like there's a really good market out there, and that market drops off because the price of oil went up for whatever reasons, it drops off in a big way. Economies crash, et cetera. Then instead of Boeing, selling 1,500 787s, they're going to sell 800 787s. Or you'll see the announcements from Airbus, we're moving from a build rate of 15 to a build rate of 8, which happened a few years back. That's catastrophic to those partnership deals.
Right. So in the case of Airbus, you said, I think it was Airbus, we said they can pick either Pratt or GE's engines to go on their plane. How is that decision made? Is it literally as simple as they're completely interchangeable and whichever engine's there, they can decide? I mean, how does that work?
For the most part, so the entity that makes the decision is actually the airline. So whoever Airbus is selling it to, the airline decides which engines, because they may be an airline that says, hey, I want all Pratt & Whitney engines, or I may want all GE engines, et cetera. So they make the decision. What Airbus is offering is you can pick either one of them. There's a different price point for each one, but the aircraft is qualified for both engines.
Okay, I see. That makes sense. So the end customer can pick at that point.
Right.
And then on the other side, so I guess you're saying that it's more typical for there to be these dual suppliers. But take the example of Boeing, where you said that they're only you said it was only GE, right? So it was only GE engines that will go on. Right. In that case, what if there's just some crazy issue and GE ultimately Boeing needs to get rid of GE and get another engine? How difficult is it at that point for them to recertify, get a new engine qualified for the plane?
Incredibly expensive and years to certify.
Years, okay.
Years, yes. Yeah,
so once they're locked in with the supplier, they're pretty much.
That's right.
Now they want to start from scratch. That's the supplier.
Right, and of course GE protects them, and Boeing requires them to be protected by GE building at 2 different physical locations, et cetera, et cetera. So there's business continuity practices put in place to avoid any kind of catastrophic loss of a plant that shuts down Boeing delivering 737s, given that they
So just on that point, so GE, let's say GE has a fight with GKN about a part critical to the engine. Looks like it's gonna delay delivery of the engine. Boeing freaks out, right? Tries to figure out what the heck is going on. I mean, I guess 2 questions. What is Boeing? Does Boeing typically get involved? Would they get involved? Number 1, and number 2, if GKN is also a supplier directly to Boeing as a tier 1, in addition to being a tier 2 to GE, does that affect the tier 1 relationship that GKN could have with Boeing on other products, or is it purely, is it totally kind of isolated?
It should be, but it is not isolated by any means. So, but Boeing and GE, I would say, is the same, and Airbus to a large extent the same. They're big gorillas on the block, and so they're very, very aggressive. And so if GE were failing to deliver engines, there would be all sorts of meetings at very senior levels between Boeing and GE. And there are all sorts of penalties in those contracts that GE would be paying for causing Boeing to shut down a production line or to miss deliveries, et cetera. And then to the second part of the question, so, for instance, as you said, I may be a supplier from GKN to the engine through GE or through whoever, GE in this particular case, could be Rolls-Royce for the bigger aircraft. But I'm also a tier 1 supplier for the wing. If there were issues on one side or the other, Boeing would absolutely raise it and threaten the business of the other business in order to get what they want, without question.
Makes sense. Did that ever happen while you were at GKN?
Oh, absolutely. It's happened on numerous occasions, both for Airbus and for Boeing.
Can you give any color, any detail that you could share on kind of how that played out?